Dear friends, I'm Muqtadar Khan. I'm a professor at the University of Delaware and a non-resident scholar at the New Lines Institute. I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to present to you our newest anthology, Rise of India as a World Power. This ebook essentially has 7 chapters, one by yours truly, which is an introduction in which I explore the various discourses about India, India as a rising power, India as a declining democracy, India as potentially a major balancer of world politics as a kingmaker. So there's a lot of discourse about India. All eyes are on India these days. And so I'm discussing the range, the scope, and possibility of India becoming one of the most important world powers. The next chapter is by Sumit Ganguly, a very prominent scholar of international relations and especially South Asian politics and Indian foreign policy. He writes an interesting article in which he argues that India needs to fix a few things before it can become a truly world power. One is relations with the US, its procurement strategy, its relations with Pakistan. The next chapter is by Ambassador Talmiz Ahmed, who has been ambassador to several countries in the Middle East. He argues that while India is rising definitely as a major power, it is possible that its ideology of Hindu nationalism might eventually cause troubles with the Middle East, which is a prominently a Muslim world. So essentially, he explores the possibility of India's rise as a major power running into some headwinds because of its Hindu nationalist ideology. The third chapter is by Michael Kugelman, who is with the Wilson Center in Washington, D.C., and also with the Foreign Policy magazine. And he explores the possibility that Pakistan can impede India's rise to power. And he examines to what extent Pakistan can influence India's geopolitical fortunes. I'm not going to tell you what his answer is. Please read the book to find out. The next chapter is by Aparna Pandey, who is with the Hudson Institute. She describes India as definitely a rising power, but a different kind of a power. She argues that India is not trying to impose its will on other nations, but what it seeks is recognition and respect as a moral actor in the international sphere. So that's a very interesting perception. It's going to be a world power, but a different kind of world power. The second last chapter is by Ghazala Wahab, who edits the Force magazine in India. And she's a commentator on basically military issues. And she argues that while India is definitely a rising military power and it's one of the biggest buyers of weapons on the international market, she raises the question, has India's military growth, as well as its military procurements, has it actually given India what it needs, which is deterrence against its two nemesis, Pakistan and China. And recent events that shows that India is still continuously assaulted across the border, especially by China in Galwan and Arunachal Pradesh, raises the question, has India acquired enough military power to deter its enemies? And the final chapter is by Ambassador Syed Akbaruddin, who has represented India at the UN, and he explores the history of India's efforts to reform the UN Security Council and other multilateral forums like the World Bank and IMF, and he examines the possibility and probability of India becoming a permanent member of the UN Security Council. So I had a great time putting this book together. It is short. It is accessible, it is policy oriented, but with a lot of academic rigor. So please download the book. It's free, there's no cost. At the bottom of this video, in the video description, I will provide you with the links to the book, to a PDF of the book. And I will also share a link to other anthologies that the New Lines Institute has published on the role of values in foreign policy and the possibility of a new world order emerging after the Russia-Ukraine war. So there are essentially 3 anthologies there, and they're all available to you. This is Muqtadar Khan, very excited for sharing this wonderful news from New Lines Institute about this new anthology, Rise of India as a World Power.